Okay. All right, everyone. Well, let me be the first one to welcome you to the Founder Institute. My name is Ryan Micheletti. I'm head of global operations, and we've got a very special program that I think is timely for what the world is experiencing today. And so, just by a quick overview of what we're going to be doing today, I've got a presentation I'll give you that'll hopefully answer a lot of the questions that you might have. And if it doesn't, then we'll do Q&A. Followed by a working group networking session that we'll do afterwards. And so if you do have questions at any point in the presentation, go ahead and put them into the chat, and then we'll do our best to answer them either in the chat or at the end. We're going to consolidate all of the questions and be able to answer them. So one thing that I'd like to just kind of start off with is just basic kind of Zoom webinar protocols. So if you can, just make sure you're on mute during the presentation or when you're not speaking. And then also, it's a best practice to turn your camera on. Really one of the biggest values of Founder Institute is building your network. And so because we have so many people joining this program, we want to make sure that you have the ability to start putting names to faces and really create that networking aspect to this. So we're going to just start off with brief introductions. I'd like to introduce my good friend and also partner in crime here, Mike Supervici. Mike, why don't you do a quick introduction on yourself?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session of Founder Institute. Really excited to be working with everybody here. So my name is Mike Supervici, and I lead the Alumni Success Group at the Founder Institute. And what we do is that we basically take over after you graduate and we help you scale. So just to give you an idea, we basically help a portfolio of over 4,500 companies, and we help in a variety of different ways, whether it's to raise money, whether it's to get the product market fit, whether it's to close customers, whatever it is. So basically, I interact with founders all day long, and I have seen a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work as a result of this role that I'm in currently. In addition to that, I also lead all of our postgraduate programs. So we have, and we're going to talk about this in detail in the presentation later. So I will be helping you raise money. I will be helping you get to product market fit and various other things as well. In addition to that, I also lead a program that helps venture capitalists raise money. So when you're ready to raise money, I'm going to be basically your kind of like your cog, your network, your ability to basically get in touch with the investors. Prior to doing this role here at the Founder Institute, I was also in your shoes as a founder. I built a company called Explorants. I raised money. I went through basically all the different steps that you went through. So I'm happy to kind of share my experience and also try to help you in any way that I can.
Awesome. Mike's being very humble. He helps hundreds of companies every single year raise money, and he's such a great asset to the Founder Institute. Scout, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Great to see we have 65 now participants. My name is Scout. I've been with the Founder Institute for a little over 5 years now, and my main role with HQ is actually to help manage the local leaders we have in the many chapters we have around the world. This will be a really tough time for you guys with the 14 weeks. We're here to help. I'll be mostly a fly on the wall and directing a lot of the back end stuff, but I'm here to help you guys get through it. So congratulations for everybody making it, and excited for this.
All right. Thank you, Scout. Just brief intro on myself. So as I mentioned, I'm head of global operations for the Founder Institute. And so I've been here for 5.5 years. Essentially, my role is to work with all of our local leadership teams that run the program for us locally in all of these different cities that we operate in. So, and I'll give you a brief overview of the network, but we're in over 195 cities. And in each one of these cities, we have a local leadership team similar to the three of us you see on the screen here. And I work with them every single day to make sure that we're creating really good programs, and as a result, creating some of the best local companies in those ecosystems. So whereas Mike kind of focuses on the back end of Founder Institute, working with all the companies that graduate in the alumni network, I focus more on the front end, working with the leaders from around the world. And so because this is a really great international program, we have founders from all over the world. We're going to have networks that can benefit you, right? So if you're in Africa and you're looking to launch a company, right? Or if you're, in the US and you're looking to tap into, different cities in Europe, I'm probably the person who will help introduce you to the leaders and the mentors in those regions as we continue on this journey, and basically helping you through the Founder Institute network, to help you build a global company. I also run the Founder Institute program for Silicon Valley. This is the first time we're starting off with like a large global virtual program. Many times before this, it's always been live and local in Palo Alto, California. And prior to Founder Institute, I co-founded VetTech, which is a startup accelerator for military veterans. And I also co-founded Shield Core Security, which is we were named the third largest veteran-owned company in the Bay Area by the Silicon Valley Business Journal a couple years ago. So it's a security company here in the Bay Area with operations throughout the United States. And so just, I was kind of born and raised in Silicon Valley, and over the last 10 years, I've helped launch over 250 companies, both through VetTech and the Founder Institute, that have raised over $50 million. So our goal, and we're sort of the guides for you through this whole entire process, is to help you leverage this vast network of resources to help you build a global company, and that's for life, right? One of the things that I really want to stress and have the people walk away with on this call is that although this core program that you're going through is 3 months long, what you're basically tapping into is this support network that will guide you and help you for the rest of your life. And we're very much a force multiplier. So when things happen, like you go and get press or you raise money, we basically will be able to take that news and echo it throughout our entire network. And we're still helping companies that graduated, in our first cohort in Silicon Valley over 10 years ago. So I just want to stress that, like, we're here to be your advisors and sort of be your Silicon Valley accelerator that bolts on to your startup to basically give you unprecedented access and a global platform to launch your company. So let me just go over a quick program overview. So some of you have priorities in this slide. So as everyone knows, Founder Institute is the world's largest pre-seed startup accelerator. So over the last 10 years, almost 11 years now, actually, we've launched over 4,250 companies across 190 cities with a mentor network of over 15,000 mentors, right? And so on average, we create somewhere between 800 to 1,000 companies per year globally, which makes us the largest startup creator in the world by an order of magnitude. So the Founder Institute's mission is to empower communities of talented and motivated people to build enduring and impactful technology-enabled companies worldwide. So here's some pictures of our different chapters throughout the world. So, I just want to take a moment here, right? Because everything we do at Founder Institute has an altruistic mission, right? And, especially in the tumultuous times we're in right now, it's very clear that the world is broken, right? There's a lot of injustices in the world. There's lots of things that are going wrong. But what this really translates to is a big opportunity for those of us who are on the call to do something about it, right? And at the end of the day, we know that entrepreneurs are going to be the ones who solve the greatest problems facing humanity. And that's what we do every single day at Founder Institute. We empower these entrepreneurs to build companies and technologies that will positively impact the world. It's not going to be governments. It's not going to be, different NGOs. It really takes individual leaders like yourselves who see a problem in the world and say, I want to go and fix it. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be very difficult and challenging, but we're here to support you every step of the way to make sure that what you're doing is going to have a lasting impact and will help you build this legacy. So as part of our application process, you've probably seen, like, we have sort of this tie into the UN SDGs. So asking you, like, what are some of the UN SDGs that you're interested in? Our vision is to basically help every startup company around the world that we launch have some level of impact. Right. So there's a couple ways that we do this that I'll get into a little bit later in this presentation. But at the end of the day, we're here to help you build something that matters. And the good news is that if you kind of look at this, the startup world is already leading global change, right? Um, it this even though there's a lot of challenges in the contemporary times right now, there's been no better time to start a company. And I just want to take a moment and commend everyone on this call, because even though the world's a little bit of a scary place, right? Some of the best companies have been started during recessions and during economic downturns and times of unrest, right? Because the market is essentially being disrupted for you right now. And it really does take someone with vision and determination and grit to look at the world right now and say, I want to build something and I want to do something different. And I'm gonna do something that matters, right? And so um, we essentially want to empower you to do this, right? And the good news is, like, you can kind of see the trend in this line, right? This is going to be a hockey stick curve. So imagine over the next 10 years what the world will look like, especially if we have good leaders and good people building companies that can help address some of these issues. So right now, this is the time, right? The world before post-COVID is going to look very different than the world that we're helping create after COVID-19. And so we want you to kind of think about this. And one of the things we'll go over in office hours and in the program is, how do you build something that's relevant for the post-COVID future, right? It's the entrepreneurs that are going to be helping develop what the world looks like. And we're excited to help you every step of the way. So my challenge to you is, can you change 1 million lives? Can you create 100 jobs? And can you run it for over 10 years? That's what we're trying to help you do. So this program is a little unique compared to what we've done in the past. So it's truly a global program. And before, we were sort of limited by geography. We'd run 30 to 50 person cohorts locally in a region. But because we're sort of forced to go virtual, it's actually opened up a lot of doors and opportunities. And the program's actually, in my opinion, much stronger virtually. And so, the difference with this program that you're in right now versus, one that you might join, if it was in person, besides the virtual aspect, is that we actually are running this Silicon Valley program concurrently with Toronto, London, Silicon Valley, and Singapore. And just because you're not in one of those cities, we actually have founders from other parts of the world. But these are the cities that are actually where we're running physical programs, where we have mentors, and you'll essentially be able to tap into resources in these networks to help you do this. And so one of the kind of, logistical items that I want to emphasize on the call is that everyone is part of this sort of Silicon Valley cohort. We're running 2 sessions, right, on Wednesdays, one at 10 a.m. and one at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The 10 a.m. session, we'll have a lot of founders from the London program join this session. We're going to bring in both mentors from London and Silicon Valley, as well as the global network, to participate in these sessions. And then in the evenings, we have a 6 p.m. session that's going to be more focused on, like, sort of the US and Singapore and other parts of Asia. And so everyone on this call is allowed to go to either program. But what I would just like to emphasize in the beginning is, stick with the one session that you're in. If you want to switch, that's fine. But, at least for the first couple weeks, we want to make sure that you're in the right working group, that everyone's participating in the same session, and that you're experiencing the same program. And then as we get a little bit further along, you can, if you're free at 6 p.m. and you want to join that session, you're certainly welcome to, right? And so we'll make sure that everyone has the calendar invites for those sessions as we get a little bit further along in the program. So again, if you do have questions about this or about anything that we're covering, please put it in the chat and we'll be able to answer them. So, Mike, Scout, and I have been running the Silicon Valley program for, the last 10 semesters. And we actually have a partnership with NASA Ames Research Center. We created something called the Advanced Technology Accelerator. And so there's a lot of really interesting technologies that NASA has. And we actually have some folks from NASA on the call who will be joining us a little bit later on today to talk about some of those tech transfer opportunities. And so everyone, regardless if you're from London or Singapore or Silicon Valley, will be able to essentially work with NASA and their tech transfer office to see if there's potential technologies or innovations that you want to use for your company. And they've got really great resources and subject matter experts that can help. Here's just kind of like a brief snapshot of what they do. They have, over 1,500 technology reports. They have over 2,500 software usage agreements. So again, there's a lot of information and a lot of things that you'll kind of learn as you go through the program. So if you have questions on this, feel free to pop it into the chat. And we'll actually have probably in the next couple of weeks or so a dedicated session related to NASA tech transfer. Space has always been like very near and dear to the Founder Institute's heart. We actually have a Star Fellow program that's like a fellowship. And so regardless of whether or not you're actually working on space or space related technologies, you can still tap into NASA tech, even if it's for something that's unrelated. They've put up millions and millions of dollars into their technologies, and they basically want you to use them, to commercialize them. So here's a little bit about the virtual program offering. One of the best things and I think most valuable things that we want to do is make sure that you're building your network as we move forward. So what we're doing is every Friday, Mike and Adeo, who's our CEO, are going to be running a weekly AMA session, right? And this is totally optional. You'll be able to join this session. It's 9 a.m. Pacific. And you can basically ask questions. Mike, is there anything that you want to say specifically about the AMA sessions?
We like to make the AMA sessions be highly interactive, right? And so what ends up happening is that we usually pick a topic that's relevant for that week, and we try to kind of make sure that the questions are relevant to that. But we kind of run it in a similar format on Zoom. You'll be asking questions via the chat, and we just have a discussions on it. And that's basically the concept. So that's basically for you. It's another way to essentially kind of have get some feedback on some certain things, and we're here to help.
So in addition to that, we've got a lot of mentors that are going to be doing office hours with you. So these are one-on-one sessions that you can participate in. We'll be doing a lot of office hours ourselves. My one request to you is that in the beginning, we have a very high volume of founders here. So just make sure you sign up for one office hour session at a time, so that it gives everyone a chance to meet with some of the mentors and leaders of the program. Another really great perk that a lot of people don't really know, because we don't really talk about it, is that as an FI grad or as part of our alumni network, when we go back to in-person sessions, you'll be able to attend any of those sessions at any time in your local city, right? And so we love it when alumni come to the sessions and participate. Even though this is kind of a 3-month virtual program, when you're done with it, you're going to have networks in all of these different cities that you can tap into to whatever benefit it leads to for your company. And then the last point here is that for companies that are ready to raise capital, and we have specific criteria for that, we can fast track them to our postgraduate program called Funding Lab. And so Mike will go over this a little bit later on, but essentially we can, if you're full-time, if you have a product in the market, and if you legitimately have enough traction to raise capital, we can essentially fast track you to that program while you're in the virtual one. And so Mike will go over that information here in a minute. So Founder Institute, and a lot of you have come in at different stages. We really focus on what we call pre-seed. And Mike's going to go over the different tracks of the program and talking about the launch path and the growth path. So Mike, why don't you jump in here?
Yeah, so one of the neat things about the Founder Institute is that we basically don't underestimate anybody. All right, we don't do that. Our process is bottoms up, right? So what we do is we have a program that forces everybody to go and try to meet very aggressive deliverables. Then that program is essentially what's going to enable us to figure out who's essentially going to be in a good spot to really take their business to the next level. So the pre-seed stage is very large, right? It ranges anywhere from folks with an idea and possibly that are still being employed to folks that have teams with products that don't have product market fit yet. Okay, that's kind of how large that stage is, and we accommodate that entire range. So for the folks that are a little bit earlier, where you're kind of either ideating or thinking about an idea or several ideas, there's what we call like the launch pad, right? So this is folks for, you may still be employed or are still just really trying to validate that concept or that idea. And that's what the launch path is essentially all about. You're going to be doing some team building. You're going to be doing a little bit of go-to-market, but you can't really think about like how go-to-market, or in other words, how you acquire customers until you understand exactly who your customer is. So you're going to be focusing a lot more on that. Now, for the folks that are a little bit farther along, so you have, some level of product, you have a team, right? You kind of know exactly who your customer is, right? Then the growth path or the growth track is essentially kind of possibly a better fit for you, and you'll be able to adjust this. Like this is you're going to start the work this week, and you'll figure it out. Is this the right fit for me? And then you can ask us, and we can kind of switch you on your track. But basically, the whole concept of the growth track is that you're essentially, you know who your customer is, and you're ready to go out and start to generate traction, ready to start making sales, ready to start preparing yourself for fundraising and all those other things, right? So this is generally better suited for people with teams that are more or less working on their business full-time, ideally full-time, so they can take full advantage of this. And then once we get through this track, then we start to open up the entire FI alumni global support system, which we're going to talk about in the next slides. So one of the things that Ryan mentioned, and I want to kind of reemphasize here, is that Founder Institute is going to be with you for the rest of your company's life. And in many cases, even for your next company's life too. I can't tell you how many times we have founders that basically come back and want us to support them on their second company as well. And so basically right now, what you all are in are what we call like the core program, which you kind of see here on the slide on the left-hand side. After the core program is over, we have a series of structured post programs that are very similar to this, very similar in that they're virtual, they're there to help you in any way. And they're designed to help you kind of get to the next milestone in your business. So we have a program called Product Market Fit Lab. All right, this is for the folks that are still kind of developing their product and they want to go out and try to really accelerate that customer adoption. And then most of the folks that finish the program end up finishing with customers and revenue. We have a program called Funding Lab. This is for companies that are ready to go out and raise money. And this program will basically help you get at least a lead investor, if not more, in basically 3 to 6 months. It's a structured program that basically holds your hand through the entire fundraising process. If you haven't gone through a fundraising process, it's a pretty challenging thing. And so that's why we developed this program. And it's very effective. Over 90% of the companies that go through the program end up closing a round of financing. And then once you grow up and you have like a big business and you have lots of employees and things like that, and you're actually ready to go raise money from venture capitalists, okay, they're going to put $5-10 million into your business because now you're ready to go out and scale. You have like 10-20 employees. You're really ready to take off. We have another program called Venture Lab. It's essentially designed to help you raise your Series A financing, which is raising it from professional venture capitalists. Very difficult process, takes a long time, and we basically help you ready for that. So that's essentially how we kind of help you with our various other post programs. Now, it may be that, again, these are just tools. These are tools. You can do a program or you don't have to do a program. It's up to you how you take advantage of this. So we provide you with the network. We provide you with the help. It's up to you to kind of figure out which tool you want to use. In addition to that, we basically have continued support. So myself, I also have a team of analysts that basically are here to kind of help and help you route you through the network. So at this point, we're at something like 15,000 mentors, I think it is, right? Maybe a little bit more now, all over the world. Many of them are some of the top CEOs, some of the top investors, some of the top people in their industry. So, my team and I are essentially there to try to help route you through this network as well. You will also have a bunch of tools, of course, that will help you kind of make that search process a little bit easier, but we definitely will help you with that as well, so that we can kind of help you get to that next level of growth in your business. Next slide. So, we talked briefly about kind of like the programs itself of the post programs. one thing I want to really emphasize, because we get this questions a lot, is that, all of these are all come with the program. There's no additional cost, no additional anything. This is just there for you. And the reason that we do that is because realistically, we can't win unless you win big, essentially, right? And so it actually makes a lot of business sense for us to try to help you be a very, very strong company. And so that's why we basically offer all these other programs. And I see here in the chat that Laura asked, do we say 15,000 mentors? Yes, actually, I think it's a little bit more now, right? And so we're, we operate in 200 cities worldwide. We have a very big network. We're actually the largest startup organization in the world. And a lot of these folks are available to help. So that's what this is all about. This is a great quote. So Tori Smith, CEO of Endiotics, what they do is they basically make ingestible robots. Really cool. It's like a pill that basically can be controlled, via remote control, right? Initially, they were doing it using like a PlayStation controller, pretty neat. But basically, you swallow the pills, got cameras, and eventually it's going to have be able to do surgery from the inside out. Okay, so they went into the program. They were on the launch track, right? Not the growth track, but the launch track. Basically just an idea, right? And then they graduated the company, the program, raised money, had several prototypes, and now the prototype is so small that it's basically almost ready to go through like the entire FDA process. And this is only a year ago, right? A year ago, he was in the same shoes as you, and that's kind of what happened. So this is just an example of the type of company, but just an FYI for everybody. Now, look, as you all know, many of you are already kind of been working on your business for a while. This is not a walk in the park, right? This is a very, very difficult process, right? It's the Founder Institute is hard because building a company is hard, especially if you want to build a business that wants to have massive impact on like humanity, right? Like you're going to be working a lot of hours, right? And the FI program is not that, is 25 hours or so, but every single one of these tasks that you're going to be working on is going to be very pertinent to your business. So just basically, trust the process. The whole point of the program is to basically help you get to where you need to get to faster. And the way we do that is by basically packaging all the things that you need to do like right now in one, deliverable. And that way you don't have to think about, oh, what should I do next? Or what should I do this week? Or what should I do, right? We kind of basically package that for you. And, the other thing about the Founder Institute, as I mentioned, is, look, we don't underestimate anybody. We like to give as many people a shot at going through this. But the reality is that many of you will not complete the program, okay? Over 60%. On average, don't complete the program. And that's good, right? Because what ends up happening is that a lot of folks will start, they'll realize that maybe this is not the company that they want to build. Maybe this is not an idea that is viable. And we help you figure that out very, very quickly, right? We help you figure that out in a few months. And so therefore, it's valuable for you to basically go through this experience to kind of stress test this idea or this business. And that is the number one reason why most people won't complete the program, right? Or just they realize that maybe this is not what I want to do for the next 10 years of my life, which is a really good win for us and for you. And that's why this is the way the system is set up. Next slide.
And I'll just say like one quick anecdote on this. Like we had a founder go through our program who had put $200,000 of his own money into product development. And then around the third week of the program in customer development, he comes up to Mike and I and he said, "Hey guys, I think I built the wrong thing." Right. And so he basically, fortunately, he was independently wealthy. So like, I don't think it affected him that much, but like, it just goes to show like sometimes like, the processes that we're going to put you through are very valuable, and we sequence them at the right time to make sure that, the amount of value that you're getting per unit of time you put into it is maximized, right? And so we'll go over some of the structure and things. Mike already kind of mentioned this. I mean, there's really two main reasons people will drop. They either fall behind, and look, like it's hard to build a company. It's very time consuming, right? And like you're going to be putting in like 20 hours of work a week just for the program itself. And so for those of you who have a family or a full-time job, right, like maybe you're not able to keep up with that, and that's okay, right? Like dropping out is not, we don't equate that with failure. And most of our founders that drop out end up wanting to come and rejoin like a following semester. In fact, I think we have a few people who are going through the Founder Institute for the second time now. And then the other thing is kind of poor ratings, right? You know, we help you realize these hard truths fast, right? We kind of have this like, we're sort of known for being like brutally honest. And again, that's not to be mean, it's to help with growth. Because if you're doing something that just like has like zero chance of success, and like we've seen, you know, this business try to go through the program like 7 different times, we're going to tell you and we're going to say, okay, like here's like what's wrong with it and here's what you can do to try and fix it. And you know, it's up to you to pivot and make the decisions to fix the business, or you know, you go back to the drawing board and figure out, you know, something else that you want to work on. And so this is a really great sort of proxy for real life. The good news is though, is that if you do drop out, you'll get a full refund if you drop out before the customer development session. So today's orientation, tomorrow is vision, and then next Wednesday is customer development. Right? So if you drop out before the session next Wednesday, you'll get a full refund. And if you drop out during the session or after the session, then you can put your course fee towards the next program for up to a year, right? So if something happens, you know, you lose your job or there's some kind of issue, right? You can rejoin the Founder Institute for free, really for any of our programs around the world, for up to a year after your dropout date. So even though it's hard, we know you can do it. Many of you have taken our admissions test. We call it our Entrepreneur DNA Assessment. You know, people always have a lot of interesting questions around it, but in a nutshell, over 50,000 people have taken this test. We've back tested the results. We've looked at a lot of information, and it's about 85% accurate. It's not 100% accurate, and it's really just an indicator, right? But everyone on this call who has taken the test has passed. Right. And so you actually have like the raw potential to be a really great entrepreneur. Otherwise you wouldn't be on the call. You know, we accept somewhere between like around like 40% of the people that apply to the program. And so, you know, just by being on this call and being part of the program, you have what it takes to succeed. And we know how to help you succeed. We've done this hundreds of times. Like I've literally like helped launch like 300 plus programs around the world at my time at Founder Institute. And we know what works, we know what doesn't. The program's the same almost everywhere in terms of its structure, but the differences are really like who are the leaders running the program and who are the mentors that are coming in, and obviously the founders are different. But you know, our processes work in Silicon Valley, New York, Sao Paulo, Kabul, Afghanistan, because you know there's sort of these core principles behind entrepreneurship and economics that are universal. So everyone's probably seen this slide already. It's on our website, so I won't dive into it. But we have tons of success stories from all over the world. I forget the exact. I think was it my like 20% or 25% of the country of Vietnam Series A companies are Founder Institute grads. So
30%.
It's 30%. Yeah. So what ends up happening is like we kind of take these Silicon Valley principles, right? Because that's where we're from. Like we're in Silicon Valley, and we apply it to all these different ecosystems around the world, and it's really effective. So let me I really want to dive into this a little bit, and this is how you win, right? And this is really like kind of the secret behind Founder Institute. Our goal, right, is to financially incentivize all of you, all of our mentors, all of our leaders, and the Global Founder Institute Network to help you succeed, right? And so something magical happens when you get a good group of people together to accomplish a common goal, right? So even though like right now you're looking at all the faces on Zoom and you're like, who are all these strangers? And, you know, everyone's kind of adapting to this new virtual world. The reality is by the end of this program, you're going to feel like family. You're going to have introduced each other to potential customers or advisors, maybe even investors, right? Depending on what stage you're at. And so at the end of the day, right, we want to make sure that everyone here is helping each other, because that's how you win. That's how you open your network, and that's how you essentially leverage the network. And so just make sure like everything we do is geared towards making sure everyone is being helpful. The second thing is building relationships, right? Not everyone is born with like a silver spoon in their mouth, and they don't necessarily have this relationship of mentors or investors, right? And so at the end of the day, some of these mentors or founders or local leaders could be your investors, right? Mike, out of the 15,000, like how many of 15,000 mentors, how many would you say are investors or no investors?
Well, look, everybody knows investors. And all 15,000 probably know investors right now. And I would say 30 to 40% are active investors. And in this current cohort, like everybody, I would say like that ratio is about the same, maybe a little bit higher. Like we're going to have a lot of investors as part of this cohort. And everybody else, every other mentor will know investors. And that's the best way to get to investors once you're ready to raise money is you need an introduction. And we'll cover all this, don't worry about it. But so that's why you want to try to leverage the network as much as you can.
And then the final point on how to win is you got to do the work, right? At the end of the day, like we can give you all the tools you need to succeed, but like, I'm not going to do your weekly deliverables for you. I can help guide you, but I can't do the work. I can't build the company for you. And like many times, like the CEOs of early stage companies, like everything falls on them. Even now, like, I mean, I look at our CEO, Adeo, and I'm just like, he's like a beast, right? And so like, you are really the leader of your company. You're the captain of your own ship. And you're probably even going to get some conflicting advice from mentors. Hey, put your team slide first or put it last or whatever, right? And it's up to you as the executive of your company to kind of make those decisions and guide the company on the path to success. So at the end of the day, we know that the people who do the work, right, are the ones that will succeed. And so all of the assignments, they're mandatory, even if you've done some of the work before, especially around like vision, like, we kind of, the way the program works is everything stacks on top of each other across the 14 weeks. So even though like we're starting with vision tomorrow, which practically everyone here has written a vision statement or understands that, it's such a core foundation to the building block of your company that you're going to want to make sure that, you go through those exercises. And if you've done it before, great. Just, throw in a Google Doc and put the information in the assignment editor. So just make sure that you're doing the work as well. So let's talk a little bit about the program structure. Some of you have probably seen this already. So our typical session and orientation is different, right? So starting tomorrow, we're going to kick things off with what we call the founder hot seat, right? And so that's where, the founders will pitch, the mentors will give feedback. And in the virtual version of Founder Institute, we'll do, probably about 30 minutes or so of these founder pitches. Then we'll go into the mentor presentations, right? So each of the mentors will present on the topic. They'll be doing like a 15-minute, maybe 20-minute at the most presentation related to the subject of the evening. And so these mentors curate their own talks. We don't force them to like, stick to FI doctrine. They can essentially like use their own experience and best practices to help create these talks. And the goal is to kind of give you 3 diverse opinions all related to the same subject so that you can kind of filter through the information and take what's relevant for your company. And then we'll conclude really with mentor Q&A. And this is where a lot of value is for the founders. And Mike, maybe you want to talk a little bit about like how to ask good questions just to set the tone.
Yeah, so a lot of times what we've noticed is that folks start to ask questions kind of like they're in a conference. So, hey, mentor, what do you think about Bitcoin, right? Or is it going to go up? Or one of these like super like general questions. And, you're going to get an answer. You're going to feel really good about yourself, but that has absolutely no value to your business. Like literally no value. Like even if this person and you're building an actual Bitcoin business, it has no value. So what you want to do to ask really good questions that are actually valuable, that can help you for your business, is to basically say, to frame that question from a particular issue that you're having in your business. So, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm building a marketplace that, connects buyers and sellers to do X. I'm having a really hard time trying to understand which side of the market I should start with. What do you think I should do? Right? Something like that, it's much more relevant. You're going to get much better feedback with respect to your business. When you ask like these broad general questions, what ends up happening is that you end up getting general advice, and general advice is not really all that helpful.
Thanks, Mike. And then at the end of every session, when we conclude, and again, the sessions are about 2 hours long, we'll do some kind of post-session social, right? And so for today, we're just going to break you into your working groups so that you can, network with each other, start building that core relationship with your teammates. And then tomorrow we'll start doing breakout sessions at random. We're also going to experiment with some other tech. There's something called Icebreaker that we're going to test in Toronto tomorrow and see if it works. But really, at the end of the day, we want you, becoming friends, building relationships, and leveraging, this access that you have right now. So let's talk a little bit about the hot seats. We have a very special rating system, and it can be encapsulated by saying no threes allowed, right? And so here's really how it works. When you pitch, and in the first half of the program, you're going to pitch, a 60-second pitch, right? Starting tomorrow. And so we have a rating scale of 1 to 5 with no threes allowed. Because a 3 is kind of a cop-out, right? It gives the mentor a chance to like kind of take the middle ground and give you some generic advice, but that's not helpful, right? You need to know, like, was it good or was it bad, right? And so this has been very effective, and we've actually used it across like other rating systems. But if you get a 5, right, that means the mentor loved it so much that they're ready to invest right now, right? So it's going to be rare you get a 5, and a lot of people don't get a 5 until towards the end of the program, which is makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're going to have to work on your pitch. A 4 is good. It means that they're interested and they're willing to become an advisor, spending their time to meet with you over Zoom or virtually to help advise the company, right? And they see value there, so they're like, oh, this is interesting. Like, let me learn more, right? A 2 means it's bad. And, it might have potential, but it probably needs a lot of work. And, in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of 2s thrown out there. I'm prepping you now. And again, it's not to be rude or anything like that, but we're not grading you on a curve. We're holding you to this like high standard of like, you're a Silicon Valley executive, right? And like your pitch needs to be like on point, right? And so, there's going to be a lot of 2s, and a 1 means that it was like really bad or just unclear. And, it's okay if you get a 1, especially in the beginning. For a lot of founders, like they may have trouble like kind of positioning the idea, or maybe they run out of time. So if you get a 1, honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but just listen to the feedback and take that, internalize it, and just, improve it for the next time. One of the things that we ask founders is like, the way you get a lot of value from the mentor feedback is to listen twice as much as you speak, right? So you're going to do, starting tomorrow, you're going to do your 60-second pitch, probably about like 6 to 8 of you will. And then the mentors are going to give you feedback. And if you interrupt them or talk over them or like give excuses or try and like justify like whatever they're saying, then you're losing valuable time where they could be giving you nuggets of gold and really good insights. So as a best practice, what I advise you to do is just have like a pen and paper next to you, or you could have your notes up on your computer and like write down their feedback, because it's what they say and even sometimes what they don't say where you can derive these really interesting insights, and then just iterate it and pivot and make it better for the next time. That's how you really like improve week over week. And the mentors, like, if something's unclear and they're like asking you about like a customer or something like that, like it doesn't really add value to you to answer it, because like, you're still kind of in this phase where you're getting the feedback and you're adapting, right? So, just as a takeaway, just listen twice as much as you speak, and just make sure you're writing down notes and getting that valuable information.
One more thing on that, Ryan. So let me jump in 1 second on that. So look, we are going to be very direct with all of our communication, all of it, right? All the system emails, all the deliverables, as well as the ratings. right? We're not gonna like try to put pleasantries in any sort of our dialogues, like, oh, it could get a little bit better, but you could really improve on here. No, we don't have time for that, and it's really not that helpful. What's helpful for you is if we basically cut through all of that with the most absolute direct feedback that we can get you, so that you can have actually something actionable, right? So if your pitch is not good, we're going to say your pitch sucks, and here's the reason why. Step one, step two, step three. This is how you should improve it, right? Now, I'm not trying to like, this is not, again, we're not trying to like offend you or anything like, so if you got to kind of set that aside, just understand that we're going to be very direct in our feedback, and that's to basically be very efficient and be very effective. That's the only reason why it's like that, all right? So that's the reason for these scores, right? And we're going to be holding up these scores, and everybody's going to know what the score is, okay? And that's how you're going to improve it. On top of that, one more thing on ratings, and we haven't covered this yet. Everybody rates everybody in this whole program. Again, when I started, it's like, we don't underestimate anybody, right? We use data to basically make a lot of these like decisions, right? And so you're going to be rating your working group members, right? Mentors going to be rating you. You're going to be rating the mentors. You're going to be rating me and Ryan, right? And so like everybody rates everybody. So you're going to get essentially a 360-degree review, right? And that helps you kind of get better, and helps you get better results, and it helps us make basically data-driven decisions moving forward in the program.
Yeah, and it helps us improve the program as well. So feel free to do that as well. And you know, the other thing, just kind of briefly, like everyone's going to develop thick skin. Most of you probably already have thick skin, right? But if you don't, you certainly will by the time you graduate. And the reality is, like, when you go out and fundraise and you're talking to 100 investors, guess how many of them are going to say no to you, right? And it's important that you kind of build that adversity muscle up, right? Which is one of the kind of parts of this program that we want you to walk away with, because, like, you know, you're going to face a lot of no's, you're going to face a lot of failure and criticism. People may call you crazy, people may give you bad advice and say stop doing what you're doing, but again, it's up to you as a leader, right, to make the right decisions at the right time. So, you know, looking at the weekly deliverables, we already kind of talked about that. Every week you're going to be doing some work through a curriculum that kind of builds on top of each other every single week. And the goal is to, like, essentially put you on rails and create this structure so that 3 months down the line, when you graduate, you're light years ahead of where you would have been if you were to just kind of meander around. So even though in the beginning you might be doing some things around vision, you know, by the end of it, you're going to see like this structure that we're putting you through is very, very effective. And this structure helps you scale, right? And even everything that we do from an internal aspect of Founder Institute HQ is very structured. VC lab is very structured. Funding lab is very structured. And that's, you know, really how you scale. So even outside of like the curriculum itself, you're going to learn how to build a scalable company just by going through the structure that we put you through. It's really effective because, I mean, you know, we're in 200 cities and we have 15,000 mentors. So structure works. Speaking of structure, Mike, do you want to go over sort of the launch track versus the growth track?
Yeah, so, you know, I probably should talk about this too in my introduction. I help build a lot of this curriculum, and I update it on a regular basis along with our founder, Adeo. So every week we work on it, and basically the curriculum gets adopted almost every quarter, if not sooner, based on market conditions and then things that we see. It's kind of like our product. It is literally our product. This is why you see launch track version 4.5A, just like another product. So, you know, look, the launch track is, as you can see here, is really, you know, focused more on customer development and understanding who your customer is, and then hopefully growing your customer base based on how far along you are in the program. You know, the intensity is the same. It's just that it depends on the kind of like the level of how far along your business is. It's totally okay for you to do the launch track, even if you have a very advanced business, because sometimes it really helps you kind of really validate some of your assumptions. For example, one of the things that we do, in particularly in vision and in customer development, we actually ask people to think of a couple other ideas. And the reason we do that, which sounds counterintuitive, the reason we do that is we want to make sure that, you know, by you validating these other ideas that you may have, it actually helps you figure out if the original idea is something that was really something that you want to do. right? Because if you have these other ideas and you're like, oh, maybe I should do this one, maybe the first one wasn't what you initially want to do. So it's actually really, there's actually a lot of logic and it helps a lot. So we get a lot of questions about that. Why do I have to look at these other ideas? Well, that's why, right? And so, everything builds on top of everything. Every week builds on top of every week. So the key for you here is to stay on top of your work, okay? When you start to fall behind, it gets really, really hard to catch up. And so we talked about kind of like a lot of the dropout rates and things like that. A lot of that mostly happens because people just start to kind of like fall behind, and this is aggressive. Like for many of you, we're taking you from like 0 or 0.1 to like a fully incorporated company that's launching. And for other folks that are kind of in that 0.5 range, we're taking you from like 0.5 to like 1, where you're, like getting customers, making money, possibly raising money, probably raising money and things like that, right? So we're pushing you pretty hard. So stay on top of the work. It's really, really important. Next slide, Brian. And what you can see here in the growth track, the biggest difference with the growth track is that we essentially start going on into customer acquisition and investor diligence a lot faster, right? We start kind of like pushing that forward a few weeks, and we start to help you with that. And look, I help hundreds of companies raise money every single year, so I can definitely help you with that no matter what. But just FYI, that's the kind of one of the biggest differentiators in the tracks.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to the curriculum is like there's sort of like the educational piece here, everyone, where it's like, okay, I'm learning about like KPIs and I'm actually out there building my company. But there's this whole other component of Founder Institute which doesn't get talked about a lot. Like, we're the Founder Institute. We're not the Startup Institute. We're here to make you a world-class elite founder. And so every week you'll see at the top here, leadership development. You're going to be doing things that make you a really good leader. And just by going through the processes, some of you have held leadership positions in companies or in the military or wherever, right? This is a really great way for you to become this like startup executive, so that when you're done with the program, not only do you have this like MBA in startup entrepreneurship, but you yourself have gone through this like personal growth that a lot of our grads talk about, to become a really, really strong leader, right? And that's going to carry with you for the rest of your life.
One last thing before you go to the next one. The way the curriculum is structured is that there's no theory. You're literally doing, right? So like, go talk to customers, go and get 50 leads onto your landing page, right? Do this, this, and that, right? It's very like deliverable, like, hey, do this, this, and that. So there's not a lot of like theory here. This isn't like school, right? This isn't school at all, right? You're building your company, and what the weekly deliverables do is help to create structure for you to help you get there faster.
Let's talk a little bit about office hours. So we recently built an office hours tool that is integrated into the system. So all of you can book office hours with me, with Mike, with some of the leaders in the program. And this is a time for us to like talk one-on-one. Now, in the beginning, it's going to be a little crazy, right? There's like 80 people on this call. But as we go forward, you're going to get more and more individualized attention and support as the cohort gets a little bit smaller, right? And so we've got a bunch of mentors who have agreed to do some of these office hours to help you. We have something called an epic sprint. This used to be called a special assignment. And what this is, it's a very challenging assignment to help you fix critical issues with your business. So like if you at the mentor idea review, if you score below a certain threshold, all the mentor feedback is like, hey, it doesn't look like you've done enough customer development, or, the go-to-market strategy is really weak. We'll give you this epic sprint to help you fix that deficit in your business that will either break it, or it'll help you come out of the other side much, much stronger. And most people that do it, like I'd say like 95% of the people that actually do the work, probably even higher, they hate us when we give it to them because it's like this massive amount of work that almost looks impossible. But if you just kind of bear down and just do it, right, the things that people accomplish are really like crazy, right? And so like we've had founders go and like get like 8 LOIs in 3 days. And going from like, hey, I've got this idea to, hey, I've got 8, customers that want to pay me for this. Like, it's a huge, like just that alone increases the valuation of the company and essentially helps you get much further along. So just a fair warning here, everyone here is going to get at least one epic sprint, right? And it's to help you build your business. and it's going to be very, very valuable. Working groups. So we'll talk specifically about the working groups, but again, this is like everyone here is working on their own company, right? And so the working group is a way for you to network with your peers who are going along with you on this journey, experiencing the same thing, and to help each other, right? You can support each other through the program. We've had, especially during like special assignments or epic sprints, like, founders have made introductions for each other. They've leaned on each other for support. They've been there just for like peer support and helping each other through the program. So it's really, really effective structure. Here's the dynamics. I know there was a little bit of confusion because one of our template emails wasn't updated for virtual. So you have to meet twice per week, obviously virtually, right? Pre-COVID, it was once in person and once virtually. Now, obviously, everyone's scattered all over the world, so it's twice, right, virtually. And the other thing, too, is like this isn't really a big issue, but we want everyone to just be respectful and keep things confidential in the program, right? Everyone sort of saw that confidentiality clause in the founder agreement. We just want to make sure that like everyone feels like this is a safe place for them to like express themselves, talk about their ideas without going through that typical founder issue where they want to hide their company and keep it a secret because they're afraid someone's going to steal it, right? And we've actually strategically, like I went through yesterday and created the working groups. For this program, we tried to do it based upon region, stage, and even vertical. So some of you may be working on similar ideas, right? And, the idea behind that is like a lot of you need co-founders or you need team members, right? And so you may end up wanting to join forces with each other to work on one idea. And, that's definitely okay as part of the program. So we have something called the working group presidents. And, this is really like, it's not a lot of work. Your job is to basically upload like the team meeting notes every single week. So there's, when we designate you as the president in the system, you'll actually have a place where you can upload your meeting notes. And your job is really to be the leader and help lead your team to success, right? So you get a little bit of leadership training here. You'll also, as sort of just like an order of operations here, if there's issues like within the team, right? Let's say like, a link's not working or there's, someone's having trouble logging into the website, try to like solve those problems at the lowest level possible, right? Within the team. And if you can't figure it out, then surface it to your president. If the president can't figure it out, then they can come to us. If we can't figure it out, we'll go to Adele and get them to fix something that's broken, right? But at the end of the day, we want like this really strong working group dynamic, and really like the strength of the group is in the strength of the leader. So choose wisely who the leader should be. It's not a ton of work. And as a bonus, you'll get to pitch tomorrow. So all of the leaders of these working groups will be the first ones to do their 60-second hot seat. Tomorrow we have the co-founder of DocuSign joining us. And so you get to pitch DocuSign tomorrow, which is great. He's also an investor among a couple other great people that we have. So let's talk about the incorporation process and joining the equity collective. So specifically, like we have legal partners in every city that we operate in. So regardless if you're in London or somewhere in the US, we have like a law firm that can help you incorporate. And all of these law firms usually have like a special tool for founders, that they get through Founder Institute, right? And it's totally optional. You can use whoever you want to incorporate, but we just want to make sure that we're adding value and helping you get like special deals with these legal partners. And so, incorporation doesn't happen until about 2/3 of the way through the program. So you don't need to worry about this right now. For those of you who want to get the process started, we can certainly help you with it. But my recommendation is wait until the mentor idea review before you go down this path, and we'll be able to help you incorporate pretty easily. The Equity Collective is really Founder Institute's secret sauce. This has been how we've able to align the global startup ecosystem to help you succeed, right? So the way that this works is at that incorporation deadline, right, which is about 2/3 of the way through the program, every founder has to have an incorporated company in order to proceed in the program, because you're not a founder unless you create a company, right? And so we want to make sure every grad has a company that they're building and growing. So at that incorporation deadline, all of the founders in the cohort contribute a 4% warrant to the Equity Collective. And what a warrant is essentially a stock option. So you give warrants to companies and you give stock options to individuals. And this allows Founder Institute to invest in your company in the future, right? And so the idea here is that, when you go on to become a big shot and you've got a successful company, we want to be able to buy shares from you so that we can participate in the upside, right? And then what we do, which is very unique to us and goes back to our altruistic nature, is that we share the upside of any exit that happens from this equity collective with everyone who was involved in the cohort. So 1% of the 4% is given to the founders of the program. So this is kind of cool where if we graduate, let's just say with like 50 companies in this cohort, you as a founder will literally have startup equity in 50 other companies, right? That rivals probably most angel investors' portfolios in terms of volume, right? So this is a way for you to not only have bought in long-term like support and success with your fellow founders, but it also diversifies the journey for you, right? Diversifies the risk, because the reality is that, on average, 9 out of 10 companies will fail, right? Well, if we have 50 companies and you apply that 90% failure rate, right, that's still like 5 companies that are going to be successful. And if those companies have exits, then you're going to be able to benefit from that. So you're going down this risky path, so you might as well diversify away some of the risk, right? And that's not to say that 9 out of 10 will fail. In fact, our grads actually have a much stronger survivability rate. I think it's somewhere around 70% of all of our global grads are still alive, which is, essentially flipping that 9 out of 10 number on its head, right? The second percentage point goes to the leaders. So we're essentially working for free, running this program, spending our time with you, helping you build your company. And that is essentially ensures that we have equity upside in the company when it goes on to have an exit. The third percentage point is shared with the mentors who come in and provide the content of the week and do office hours with you. And the last percentage point is held onto by Founder Institute headquarters for essentially creating the program and doing all the post-program support. And so if you kind of take a step back and look at this at a high level, we're literally giving 75% of the proceeds from any exit back to the local ecosystem, because our mission is to help build these ecosystems globally. And so what this does is it helps create the next generation of angel investors that will then invest in innovation and create more companies, create more jobs. And you can see how this unique model creates this positive upward spiral effect to help build, startups and technologies and really build the startup ecosystem globally. So I'm sure you'll probably have some questions on that. Feel free to put it in the chat. Just some quick high-level notes here on the next slide. So as I mentioned, we have by signing the warrant, we essentially have a 15-year right to purchase shares from the company. The price per share and the number of shares that we can buy is set at your first funding round, and then it's set in stone, right? And so what ends up happening is, like, as your company grows, right, the amount of shares that we can buy is fixed, and the price that we pay is fixed. So what represents 4% of the company at your first funding round, which is usually your seed round, by the time you create like a large company, that original 4% dilutes down to 2%. So our percentage of the company gets smaller as your company gets bigger. So we dilute just as the founders dilute when investors come in. And so the goal here is, and the benefit really for you as the founders, is that you'll face minimal dilution, right? And personally gain value from the exit. So your company, because your company is part of the equity collective and you as an individual is part of the equity collective, you'll actually get a payout from your own exit as an individual. And so it's a really, really interesting way to ensure that everyone's financial incentives are aligned to, again, help build the company for life. So let's go over our partners really quick, and I'll make this fast because I know we want to jump to Q&A here. So I already mentioned NASA Ames. They're one of the leading research organizations in the world. There'll be some tech transfer opportunities for those of you who are interested. There's potential NASA grants and contracts as well. So if you're working on a space company, this is very relevant. If you're working on any kind of hard tech, chances are there may be some existing technologies or IP that you can leverage and license to kind of fast track you, right? And help you build the company. for the companies that are incorporated in the US, one of our legal partners is Perkins Coie. They're a fantastic legal partner. We've been working with them for, I think over 3 years now, and they've got a really great incorporation package. And again, this is specific to US and London and in some of the other areas, like there's other, packages that we have, but essentially founders pay $1,000 up front, right, which helps cover the filing fees. That gets them a $4,000 credit that goes towards, the incorporation itself. And then they also get another $4,000 of deferred legal fees. So you basically get $9,000 worth of legal services for $1,000 from a reputable law firm. And they also have a new space industry group for those that are interested in working on space. Speaking of space, we have a partnership with the International Space Station. So their national labs, their goal is to benefit life on Earth. So this isn't really space tech. It's everything from, you could say like genomics and not so much software. It usually has to be some kind of hard tech. But if you have an invention or something that you want to get up on the space station that would benefit from being experimented on by astronauts in zero gravity, this is a good partner for you. Golden Seeds. So for all the ladies on the call, we have a partnership with Golden Seeds, which is an early stage investment firm that focuses specifically on women startup leaders or companies that are led by women executives. And so they have office hours for female founders with their investors, and they do it actually pretty frequently. So I would check this out. You could probably even just Google Golden Seeds office hours and the link will pop up. But through this partnership, you're able to book a time with them to get direct feedback from investors. Stylift Tech is one of our design partners. So those of you who need product help, Charlie is great. He's one of our mentors. You'll meet him in the process, and he'll be able to give you some product reviews and insights into maybe how you should think about building your product. And so they're a really great organization to work with. And then as some of the people know, we have something called the Female Founder Initiative, which is a global initiative we started in 2016 with the goal of helping build our global portfolio so it's made up of 40% companies led by women. And in the US, we've actually exceeded that number already, which is really great to see. So through this initiative, you'll be able to connect with female mentors and experts. So let's talk about a little bit about closing advice, and then we'll jump to Q&A. So everyone here is responsible for your own success. Again, we can give you this platform, we can give you this network and all the tools you need to succeed. But really you're responsible for doing the work and succeeding, right? You can only grow if challenged. So we're going to challenge you. This is going to be a hard program, but a very, very worthwhile one. And even though it's, we're kind of positioning this as it being hard, you're also going to have a lot of fun. Right? If this wasn't fun, I wouldn't be doing it, right? I don't think Mike would be doing it either, and we wouldn't have been working at Founder Institute for 5 years. So it's going to be challenging, but we're also here to have a good time and build good relationships with people. Everything in FI is a test, from our entrepreneur DNA test, the hot seats, to how you do on the work, right? And what we found is that, how you perform in the Founder Institute is really a proxy for real life. I can't tell you how many founders we've had go through the program that, they do really well in the program, and then guess what? They do really well a year later when they're out in the real world doing what they're doing. And then conversely, we've had founders that drop out, and again, dropping out's not bad, right? That end up stopping working on their company and et cetera. So really, there's this dynamic where this can kind of start to feel a little bit like school, right? Throw that out the window, right? This is about you building a really great company, and it's up to you to leverage it for your own benefit, right? And so even though there's assignments and there's things, and we'll try and push you and guide you, really this is up to you to get out of the program what you put into it. So at the end of the day, we're here to help you, and FI is designed to make you a world-class founder leading a global startup. And so let me take a big breath here, and we'll pause and we'll go into Q&A. So let me just stop sharing my screen really quickly. So I see we have a lot of questions in the chat here. I'm just pulling up some of the information now. So the first question here is from Ed Gonzalez. who is the director for the London group. So we have two great directors, Mercedes Bankston and Richard Christina. I think, Richard, are you on the call right now? I think you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey there, do you want to say hi?
Hi, guys. How are you? I'm looking forward to working with the London founders. It's great to be part of the virtual version of the cohort.
So the dynamic here is that Mike and I, who run the Silicon Valley program, we're going to be running these sessions, and we're going to be bringing in mentors, and then we'll have local mentors for the London group to do office hours, and Richard's going to be doing that as well. So that way you kind of build your international but also local connections.
And Ryan, I'm here too.
Hey Mercedes, you want to say hi?
Excellent. So I'm also a native Californian, but I do live in London. So I think just for those of you who are looking at expanding internationally, that's something that I work on exclusively.
Yeah. So, William, you asked, there's been an explosion in the number of startups over the past 5 years. Any idea why? I mean, this is a pretty general question, so I'll give you a general answer. It's really because, it's never been easier to start a company, right? The barriers to entry have been lowered, right? And also like the innovation and opportunity out there is massive, right? So even though there's like an increased volume of startups, there's also an increased volume of economic opportunities around startups. Mike, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing. The cost of starting a company is much lower, right? And so that's also been really helpful to entrepreneurs wanting to do it. And culturally, it's become much more acceptable to do that in a lot of places in the world, mostly because of not only just the work the Founder Institute's been doing, but just a lot of the work that a lot of other folks and a lot of important companies have been doing as well. And so that's inspired a lot more entrepreneurs to start companies. When you have and we're going to probably see an even bigger increase now as a result of the COVID situation, which has also inspired other folks to go out and fix certain problems that they're seeing. So that's also another reason. So there's going to be a huge number of companies.
Probably the internet as well.
Yep, that too.
It's just it's easier to sell and market and things for a small budget than it was.
So, Jules, you say that one of the deliverables for orientation requires us to contact the local directors to make time to discuss the progress in the program. So yeah, so those are office hours, right? So you can set up office hours using the tool, and it does not need to be done before the 5 p.m. deadline tomorrow, right? We just want to make sure that you're like in the process of doing that. Melissa, you ask, what is the exact difference between the 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. session? And is it 10 a.m. UTC? So it's 10 a.m. Pacific. So an hour and 15 minutes ago. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday, with the exception of tomorrow is an extra session, right? It's the vision session. So the program is the same, right? The difference between the 10 a.m. and the 6 p.m. is really the founders. So we did it so we could cover multiple time zones, right? So we'll have, a group of founders from Asia and Silicon Valley in the 6 p.m. At the 10 a.m., we'll have a group of founders from, all over the world, but specifically Europe as well, in London at the 10 a.m. So it's really for time zone coverage, but there's going to be a lot of overlap with the mentors, and there's going to be a lot of overlap with like the office hours and things like that. So it's same program, it's just different timing for whatever is more convenient for you. Rahul, you asked what kind of topics tend to surface in the weekly AMAs. Mike, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so it depends on like the current events a lot of times. So, we spent a lot of time on, the post-COVID world, right? So we spent a lot of time how to, motivate employees while they're virtual, how to kind of deal with that situation. We talked we had one on fundraising in this situation, right? We had another one on kind of how to manage your customers and things like that throughout that. We had another one on mental health, right, which is also very important this time. So we kind of try to look at current events a lot of times to try to make that happen. And sometimes what happens is that a certain topic comes up a lot. during a session, and then we're like, okay, maybe we should do another one, right? So we had one, for example, on like the UN Sustainable Development Goals, came up a lot around that. So we ended up doing an entire Q&A on just that. And we try to do them about every week. It's not every single week for sure, but most weeks we will be on.
All right. Next question. Ian, you asked, is there a best way to optimally use office hours, either for a specific development stage or particular needs? I ultimately, like, the time is yours, right? Sometimes it'll be a 15-minute slot. Other times it'll be 20 minutes. I think the best use of time would be like start off, like, we can go through your pitch. We can talk a little bit about the company, but it's really for like direct feedback on what you're doing. And so, it's pretty flexible. Mike, you do more office hours than I think anyone I know. So I don't know if you have a process you'd like to share.
Yeah, the key with office hours is that you want to be really efficient, right? And this is also just really helpful for you as well, as if you were going to have other meetings with other folks outside of the program and things like that. So, a good thing to do is to kind of pick a topic that's like really important for you right at that moment, and basically take like the time to do so, right? And asking questions and listening is a really good way to do it. Because you can end up like taking the whole 10-15 minutes to go out and just like describe your business or whatever, and that could like obviously kind of not be optimal for you if you have only like 2 or 3 minutes to just go over one thing, right? So just come in with the preparation. Look, I most of especially Ryan and I, we do a lot of research. We know your companies. We've known your companies for now. We've looked at them, right? So with me and Ryan in particular, right? Like we don't have to go super deep into your company because I already have a pretty good idea. Now, if there's something that you want to go and talk a little bit over to kind of give me some more context for what you're about to like ask, that works. So feel free to do that. Now, with mentors that don't know you as well, then you may need to go and do a 1-minute pitch, which is why we drill it so hard over the next few weeks, so that you can get really good at that, right? So people can understand exactly what you do very, very quickly.
All right. Next question is from Ed Gonzalez. If we have or plan to have an MVP within the next week, do we need to speak to our director? Which curriculum would be optimal? You don't, I mean, you just did, so you don't need to tell us. We know now. And that's great. Congratulations. MVP is like a big milestone. So that's great. If you have an MVP, I would probably recommend the growth track, but at the same time, like, some founders like overestimate where they're at, and like even a founder that's far along with like a product would get a lot of value from the launch track. And so it really kind of depends on what that MVP is. Is it a manual MVP or is it a full product that you've built? And really the rule of thumb that I use is, can you put it in the hands of customers to get feedback? And if you can, then the growth track might be a good fit for you.
And the curriculum is flexible so that you can switch it, right? So you can start on that track and then switch back the next week.
Cool. Scout or Mike, do you want to take the next batch of questions?
Sure. So I'm gonna. I guess there's a question here with respects to who to contact with regards to building a team and hiring a co-founder. This is for Sean. Well, it doesn't really work like that, right? Like there's not like a place where you go, it's like, hey, can I get a co-founder? What you want to do is you want to leverage the network as much as possible, as well as other folks to try to find people to join your team. And we can talk a lot about how to do that. And I have a lot of experience in that, mostly because I did it myself personally, and now I advise a lot of people on that. And so we can definitely spend your entire office hours on how to basically find a co-founder, for example, right? So happy to help you with that. But what you want to do, as I've said, and Ryan has said too, is you want to kind of just take advantage of the network, right? You want to meet as many people as possible as part of this group. As we mentioned, it's very likely that over 60% will not finish the program. But however, everybody that has joined the program is a very strong individual and could potentially be helpful in a future project with you. So just keep that in mind.
One thing that I'd like to just throw in here. So I'm going to start creating the working groups, and I want to make sure that everyone who does this breakout session is with their working group. So if your name isn't listed on your picture, if you could click the little dots and put your name there, that way I'm able to assign you to the right team and the right group. So, just hover over your image right now, and there should be some dots that appear, and you can edit your name or rename yourself. That way I'm making sure I'm putting you in the right groups.
There's a question in the chat about how do I access the 15,000 mentors. So the network opens up for you more as you get farther along in the program, right? At first, you're going to basically be interacting with the folks that are as part of this cohort, and they're going to be your number one interaction. And then as you graduate the program, alumni have tools as well as an entire team dedicated to basically helping you access the entire network, right? So we literally have an entire search tool that's specific for alumni to help you find mentors that may be helpful. We also try to broker some of those introductions as well. So that's the key there. But for now, you're going to be focusing primarily on the folks that are in this cohort. There's another question here. I'm ready, and I'm already in the process of incorporating my company in Delaware. Is that okay through Stripe? Yeah, I mean it's fine. It's fine. If you want to do that, I say go for it. The key is, right, just understanding. I don't know yet. I don't know you yet. And so just understanding that you this is a business that you for sure you're going to do. And also, if you're going to go down that path, I also recommend that you talk to some other folks as well, right? Because it's not just about incorporation, right? You want to kind of develop a relationship, ideally, with a lawyer that will help you over a long period of time. And it's not just hey, I just registered my company in Delaware, right? You want to be able to issue stock options. You want to be able to do all these other things. And so it's really helpful to go through a process of where you interview several firms, to ensure that you get the right person for your company. Also, make sure that it's a Delaware C corporation. That's very critical. LLC will make it basically impossible for you to raise money.
Another question, if I could jump in, Mike, I see from Ed, is how much time are presidents expected to put in each week in your experience? This brings up a good point about the kind of the chain of command. If you have any problems that arise from the website, or you have any questions that you can't answer yourself, first thing you should do is go to the other members of your working group. A lot of you are doing the same things. Sometimes it takes a little troubleshooting amidst the group to figure out a simple problem. So first, figure out the problem with the working group. Then, if the working group cannot find the solution, then I would go to the presidents of the other working groups. They're probably dealing with the same sorts of questions. And if finally nobody knows the answer, then escalate that up to Ryan, Mike, and I, and we can help with you with that. In terms of the time commitment, really presidents are mostly in charge of scheduling the working group meetings each week. So there's no additional curriculum work or anything like that. But it is important that you remain the head of your working group. We can instead relay with one person versus, the 70 people we have. These presidents' roles will switch during the course of the cohort. So don't get too entrenched in your president role. But I think that's a good answer for that one. What's next?
There's this one where it's, what's the process of bringing on board a co-founder within FI to complement your experience? We kind of talked about that again. So if you have a co-founder, right, what I recommend is that you keep the co-founder up to date with everything that you're doing. And if they're not currently taking the program, if they are in the program with you, which is perfectly fine, the way we manage that is that we actually make the co-founder be in a different working group. And the reason for that is because that way you get twice as much feedback, right? And we make both the co-founders pitch. That way both co-founders become very good at pitching and understanding the idea and things like that. And I saw also there was like a follow-up question with that in the chat about kind of how to manage epic sprints, right? In most cases, we actually give the co-founders different epic sprints. That way, you basically get more done in that time. And so that's the process for that. If you currently have a co-founder that's not in the program, what you want to do is make sure that you keep them really up to date on what's going on, so that they can continue to be on board and kind of be supportive of what you're doing. Is there a networking space, a Slack channel where we can connect with participants and co-founders? We generally prefer to do that bottoms up. So in other words, if you all would like to go ahead and create a Slack channel for the working group, go ahead and do that, or for the entire cohort, feel free to do that. We're not going to do that though top down. So we're not going to create one for you, right? So if you guys want to do that, go for it. I would argue that I think pretty much every cohort that we've had has done that, has taken that approach. So go for it. Feel free to go out and create that. Can we search mentors and contacts in a specific industry, like retail? So again, we unlock the entire network once you graduate, right? During the program, you can see the mentors that are here to help you, right? You could just go to fi.co/mentors and you can see who the folks are. You can also go and see the mentors who are like going to be helping you on that session, right? So you'll be able to do some research on each one to see which one will be the most helpful. There's also here a follow-up question with regards to that from Eli. What is the dynamic between us, the mentor supposed to be like? Aisha, we expect to be on a texting basis with a few of them. Is having office hours with multiple days in a row. If you're going through a tough spot too much. Okay, so different mentors have different styles, okay? So some mentors may be there for the session and just a Q&A. We have several mentors that are actually not gonna be in a session at all, but they will be hosting office hours for you, right? With respect to Ryan and I, we're basically gonna be available for you as much as you need, right? And you can actually literally log into your profile, go to book office hours, and you can set up office hours with us as needed. As you begin to develop relationships with the mentors, right? They may be open to, maybe texting is a little too much, and I think you're trying to, I think it was, you're just kind of trying to prove a point there with that. But it's possible that a mentor may get to that level. So I can give you my personal experience. So I actually went through the program in 2010. I graduated. And, my lead investor ended up being a mentor, okay, in the Founder Institute. And, once we got to that level of engagement, we definitely were having pretty early communications, whether through text or through, email and other things, right? But I would say for the most part, what's going to happen most likely is that you're going to set up office hours using the tool in your program, on the website, and you are going to also see where it goes from there. So you might be using email and things like that. But generally, the mentors make themselves available for you from office hours, and that's the number one way to leverage that. And if for whatever reason they get more engaged in your business, which happens all the time, then they'll drive that and they'll tell you kind of how to connect as moving forward. There's some questions with respect to like the equity collective and things like that. Can we have an example of how much a founder can make from stocks or other startups in the same cohort? Moreover, do startups that have shut down receive money from other startups that exit? Okay, so look, we've distributed out, checks like, I don't know, we distribute out checks, but when I say like at least a few times a quarter or every quarter or something like that, there's usually a liquidity event at this point, mostly just because we have 4,500 companies, right? The size of that varies, obviously, because it really depends on the liquidity, right, and how much the company gets acquired for. So I can't like give you like an exact number because I don't really know. It just really depends, but it does happen, and it happens frequently. There's a question here with that follow up is like, what, moreover, do startups that have shut down receive money from startups that exit? Yes, right. And so look, if you graduate the program, everybody shares into the equity collective. Right? As Ryan said, it's very likely that many companies will fail for whatever reason. It's just part of the way it works. But yeah, you will. But that's also part of why we do it this way, because that way everybody in your cohort should be incentivized to help each other, right? And so that's why that's there.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that. So I believe there's actually an example. It might be in our FAQ. So if you go to fi.co/FAQ under the warrant or liquidity section, it'll actually show like a table that kind of goes over like what a distribution might look like. But it all depends on like exit size, and there's like variables. But you can use that as sort of like a guiding principle there.
Okay. So is B Corp development supported, or why S or C, or only S or C? Look, we've had some companies that have done the B Corp election, and in some cases it may make sense, although most of the time it doesn't. It's basically just extra work and extra reporting, and the benefit there might not necessarily be justified. Like, you can make a huge impact on humanity with a C Corp. You don't need to be necessarily a B Corp for it. But if it does make sense for your business to do that, we're happy to talk about it and happy to work with our legal counsel to make that work. But generally, everybody should basically do like what's called a C Corp, and not an S, but a C Corp, because a C Corp allows you to essentially give out stock options. This is essentially what investors expect. And it actually makes it, if you don't have a C Corp, it basically makes it almost impossible for you to raise money from professional investors, right? Like friends and family, they might not know any better, but from professionals, they're not going to be okay with that. Is there any other questions in the chat room, Ryan? Maybe you can take a quick look, because
I'm not seeing any other questions. I know people are looking to set up a Slack channel or Discord. I think they've agreed that a Slack would make the most sense. I do think that's a great idea. If somebody wants to take the lead, I can send individual information of founders to whoever is taking the lead on that.
So just for like, next steps and things like that. So in your working groups, you're basically going to, and we're going to break here in a moment. I'm just finalizing the groups right now. But in your working group meeting that you're about to go into, your job is to essentially elect a president, right? Democracy, totalitarianism, whatever you want to do, just elect a president, and then email Mike and I. You can just respond back to like one of the emails that I've sent out. My email is ryan@fi.co, so it's pretty simple. And then what we'll do is we'll mark the presidents in our system so that you have that extra, visibility of taking notes. And then I will connect all of the presidents into a thread, just so you have each other's information. And what will happen over time is like, it's kind of hard to do like live Q&A with 80 people where everyone's talking. So what we'd like to do is, as the cohort kind of gets a little bit smaller, instead of us reading your questions, we'd love to have the interaction of you asking the mentors questions and things like that. But just with such a big room right now, it can get pretty chaotic. So in your working groups, like I would say, like spend maybe, I don't know, like at least 30 minutes together. For some of you, it's the middle of the day, and others of you, it's in the evening. I'm gonna leave the room open here, probably for at least the next hour and a half. That way, you're not in a rush. You can get to know each other. You can start building these relationships. And then, just like I said, it's important that we know who the president is today, if at all possible, so that we can send you next steps and instructions for the hot seats, which are tomorrow. Are there other questions that came up?
Okay, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and put everybody. Um, there's a there's
Yeah.
a final question here on equity. If my company is not set up in the U.S. and I will need to incorporate in the U.S. to issue the warrant, will I need to pay taxes? Moreover, is incorporated in the Cayman Islands possible? Look, let's discuss that when you're ready to incorporate. Okay, it's very likely that we probably have you know a legal partner where you are, and I don't really know where you are right now. I'll have to take a look just because I don't know you yet, and we'll discuss that then. Caymans is almost always a bad idea. Okay, Caymans will almost always cost you twice as much as pretty much anywhere else, so it's just not usually like a great way to go about it. But we can talk about about that when you're ready. All right.
Right.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and go to the working groups.
Yeah. So just to kind of get to the heart of it, it doesn't matter where you incorporate. You do not need to incorporate in the U.S. to be part of the equity collective.
Yeah, that's also important.
Yeah, every region around the world, we have a localized warrant. So if you're a London company, you can stay a London company. You don't need to go through this extra layer of incorporation. We already have agreements in those areas that are localized, because effectively the way that it works is we're not actually issuing equity to all of you as individuals. That would be crazy, like having like 400 people on a cap table. So the way that we do is we do it through contracts. So the founder agreement you sign is a contract that says we're going to pay you out, right, when there's an exit. And so that it's essentially Founder Institute holds the warrant, right? We manage the equity, we buy it, we have to pay taxes on it and all of that stuff. And then when we distribute the funds, we essentially distribute it to you as like a contractor, right? And it doesn't matter if you're international or local or whatever, right? It works everywhere because we've kind of done that simplified model. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with the breakout room. So just, a couple of housekeeping items here. So we do have a session tomorrow to reemphasize. It's the vision session. If you're a group president, you'll pitch in the hot seat. So again, let us know who the presidents are after your working group meeting now. Set in this working group meeting, set up a time where everyone can meet twice a week, right? That's convenient. We do have multiple time zones, so it's going to be a little bit trickier, but try to accommodate. And then at the session tomorrow, we're going to start like right on time every single time. So try to arrive like 2 minutes early, that way we're able to start. And, like I said, we'll record every session. We'll upload it to the site so you have the information. And I look forward to speaking with all of you. I know I've already spoken with most of you, I would say, but certainly over the next couple of weeks, I'll get to know all of you, and it's our pleasure. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and do the breakout rooms, and we'll leave the main room open so that you're able to jump back in here if there's questions or if there's things that you need. So thanks again, everyone. Take good care.